You three criminals have been caught in a further act of seditious treason. Your only feeling was contempt for our society. Your only desire was to command. This council has no hesitation in proclaiming you all guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Hello, and welcome to Phantom Zoned, the podcast where we dredge the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer. And then we put them on trial, and if, for whatever reason, we should find these films guilty of their crimes against humanity, we jettison them off into the far, far reaches of space, or a Phantom Zone, if you'd like to call it. I am your host, Adrian Torres. And with me are my two co-hosts, Scott Daly.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good. I'm in my new recording studio, and by that I mean the room in my new apartment.
That has a whole bunch of milk crates on it, I imagine.
Actually, I am all unpacked.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Also joining us is the other co-host, Matt Freeman.
Hi, how's everybody doing today?
We are hanging in there. All
Excellent.
right. This is episode number 3. And since we're constantly churning things around as we get our footing on exactly what everything is going to be here, we decided to go a little left of center. I mean, all our movies are technically left of center, but this is left of center from what we're normally trying to do. When we choose a movie for Phantom Zone, we're basically looking for the worst of the worst of the worst, not necessarily the campiest or the movies that are going to kind of float into the so bad it's good. We're going to get that occasionally, but not necessarily from trying. We're calling a mulligan here just because I want to talk about this movie, and then at the same time, it's very much a weird genre effort. And we are, as we're recording this on Wednesday evening. So we're less than 24 hours away from the start of Fantastic Fest 2016.
Yes.
Which Scott is very excited about, because basically after he's done from this, he's going to pack everything, try to sleep for 30 minutes, and then start his adventure. And then I will be getting into Austin over the weekend to start my adventure with it. But the film we're doing today is the film from 2016. Yes, earlier this year, I Am Wrath, starring John Travolta and Christopher Meloni, even though, as you'll come to see, Christopher Meloni's the only one we really, really want to talk about. To begin with, we'll give you the basic rundown of the movie, which can be summed up very, very simply in that John Travolta is a car plant manager. As he puts it, he's a car plant manager for Chrysler, but maybe Honda. He's not sure, but we'll find out.
No, we won't.
but that's what he tells us, because he corrects himself just to say, hey, yeah, it's one of these, but it doesn't really matter, because no one really cares. He comes back to town to visit to come back home to his wife and daughter. His wife is played by classic 80s and 90s actress Rebecca De Mornay, who is in the film for all of 5 minutes. And if you actually set your watch to it, the opening credits outlive her. And the rest of the movie is a weird, slightly painted by numbers, and then slightly we don't really care about the numbers, and then partially we don't know what movie we're trying to make. Film that kind of fits into the Taken and Death Wish void, I guess, that we haven't had for the last 3 months or so. Scott, had you heard of this movie before you saw it?
I had heard of it because I had seen some of the amazing posters that were made for this movie, where you can clearly see John Travolta has a very heavily photoshopped and smoothed out face. And he's usually standing there holding some sort of gun and looking ominous, which is coincidentally how he looks throughout the entire movie. But I didn't know the details of it at all. I'd never bothered to watch the trailer or anything.
What I loved about all those posters that they have is his head and his head look weird in every single poster, but when you actually watch the movie you realize that that's how his face and head and hair are from scene to scene in this film, because it looks like he has maybe 2 to 3 wigs, but they went back and did reshoots without changing any of the wigs, and also didn't tell his stunt double that they were using a different wig for this interior shot. Matt, had you known anything about this movie before we forced you to watch it?
No, it had never consciously registered on my psyche in any way. But I do have to thank you for exposing me to it, because I enjoyed this movie much more than one of the movies we were comparing it to. So you guys have an uphill battle ahead of yourselves.
Well, I guess that's a good starting point. On what grounds did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it as like a solid movie? Did you enjoy it on the grounds that it was so bad it was entertaining? Or are you not really sure what came over you, but there was some type of trance or possibly curse put on you by Dan Aykroyd to enjoy this movie?
Well, two things, I think. One is that this is a perfect Saturday afternoon garbage action movie, which is a genre that I love. I have no problem with watching garbage action movies, and I enjoy them for what they are, and for what they're trying to do. And it's sort of like being a connoisseur of the genre, where there's no such thing as a bad entry. There's only differences. And then also there was some note of enjoying it for it being so bad it's good. Like there were some particular shots, especially toward the beginning, and especially during the intro sequence, which is like a news broadcast, where I was just like, this is so baffling. But it segues from being extremely baffling and weird and confusingly done at the beginning to being, as you said, a pretty paint by numbers garbage action movie. So that's the level on which I enjoyed it.
Just to make it clear for most people, if you haven't seen this movie, you should definitely pause this film and watch it. Just experience it for yourself and then come back and listen to us. At the same time, this is definitely the type of film that you can listen to everything that we say, us spoil the entire movie, sit down and watch the film and enjoy it knowing everything that comes ahead. There's a scene in the movie that we'll talk about that I know Scott particularly loves just as much as I do, that when I first saw this months ago in March, I was responding to a text that I got from a family member about my wedding that was going to happen months later. And she said, you have to rewind it. You have to see what just happened. And I rewound it and I saw it. And I literally thought I was going to pee my pants because of how amazing the scene was. When we watched it again last night and we got to the scene, we were silent for like the minute leading up to it because we knew what was going to happen. And then the moment that it did, we just busted out laughing. It was just as enjoyable, if not even more enjoyable. So it's special in the regards that you can know about all the good and bad things that come up and you just look forward to it. The scene that Matt was referencing is over the opening credits. You have what looks to be actual news clips mixed with fake news clips of escalating violence in Ohio and I guess around the U.S. in general where the movie takes place, interspersed with horribly acted newscasters who are trying to build up this violence and crime wave that's going on throughout the city, and then shots of a mayor saying that crime's down. And it very, very, very tenuously has anything to do with the rest of the movie. It has even less to do with the film than, let's say, a Steven Seagal, an early Steven Seagal movie where there's a line or two that are mentioned early in the film, and then turns out to be the most important shred of evidence, or the murder that sends things on their way in Lethal Weapon. But it's very much background noise to everything else that happens. We have John Travolta, like I said, comes back home. His wife is murdered in a parking lot, and that's what sets the whole movie up. We see him talk to some police officers, one of which is played by Sam from True Blood. And
oh my God, that's where he was from. It was driving me crazy.
Yes. It also seemed like he took a whole bunch of sedatives before he did this movie. Most of
That's
the actors,
what everybody did in this movie.
Yeah. Everyone's like struggling through hour 2 of a Xanax and a Benadryl, basically.
And I don't even care because I love this movie.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think like that's kind of the genre, almost like there's the lazy and disengaged way everyone. I mean, I'm just gonna jump around, I guess, but like there's so many scenes where there's basically like gun violence happening, and every character in the scene is just so disinterested in the fact that they're in a gunfight, and like one person is pointing a gun at them and they're pointing a gun at someone, and then their partner has a gun on the other guy, and they're all just like, where is he? No, man. Well, I'm not gonna tell you. The best... bam, and then he's dead, and yeah. No one feels anything about it. And this is so classic for the genre, I think.
And you did mention jumping around, but he's not the main character, but he's the main person that John Travolta is trying to get revenge on. Is that when he comes up with when he's faced with the opportunity to kill the guy, he doesn't take it because he wants information, and then starts to walk away and is like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to kill you." Bang. Okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
And that. So just since this is my favorite genre, I'm going to talk about the details of this. There's like, it's almost like the different action scenes or action sequences were choreographed by different people, because there's this one part like in the club which is very reminiscent of John Wick, because all of the characters are doing this thing where they're holding a pistol in one hand and they're like just kind of flailing their arm around, and you see like the actors basically flailing their arm around and pulling the trigger repeatedly, and then bad guys are falling down, and the implication is that these guys are so good that like they don't even have to like look or aim. It's just like an extension of their body. But then in every scene before and after that, they actually like have good, shooting posture and behave like humans. So it was so weird that there was this like just John Wick scene that looked basically ripped out of John Wick, because there's even a scene in John Wick where Keanu Reeves goes into a club and shoots up a bunch of people in exactly that way.
Yes, but Keanu Reeves never crouches like some weird child and then semi-pivots from position to position like Christopher Maloney does in the movie. For like, I don't know how to explain it, but just in the middle of it, to get from cover to cover, he does a weird kind of a squat waddle thrust just to get from one point to the other, and you're just like, I don't know how that's helping you at all.
And Keanu Reeves never looks like a pudgy John Travolta. Like, this is so hilarious. Like, John Travolta looks like he's playing his Bob Shapiro character from the OJ show, just he's supposed to be badass, and it's so hilarious. Like, he looks awkward. He looks like he didn't bother to learn choreography or exercise at all for any of this movie. Like, go ahead.
There's just no moment in this movie where you actually buy that he was like a special forces guy. It's like that should be an awesome reveal, because so the movie makes you think he's a car factory manager, or he is a car factory manager, but they save the reveal that he was actually like an ex special forces guy. But the reveal has no weight at all. Like, it just falls completely flat, because you want that to be introduced in a cool, badass way, and it's just introduced with like, oh, he has some guns, and then he very boringly and not very successfully tries to catch and kill this one thug. And I don't know, it's that was funny to me because it was like, I see what they're trying to do, but they're not going about it correctly.
You know, Inspector Gadget, where Inspector Gadget is supposed to be the smart guy with all the things, but his niece Penny is actually the one doing all the work for him.
Yeah,
that's this movie. John Travolta's Gadget, and Christopher Maloney is Penny, who shows up and actually solves all the problems for him.
Yes,
because without Christopher Maloney, he'd be dead so many times.
Well, yeah. But the difference is that the part of the way that you get Travolta's reveal of how he is this former Black Ops guy is he calls Christopher Maloney, and they have a very hushed conversation for a moment. And he's telling him to calm down and that everything's going to be okay. John Travolta goes for a ride, and he sees the guy who killed his wife, who the police have let go because they're dirty cops, and they're working basically with him and several gang members against their will, but still they're working with him. He sees the guy on the street, drives back home as fast as he can, and then in the lame again rip off of John Wick scene, just punches a hole into his drywall to pull out a leather jacket in a duffel bag, and then inside the duffel bag has a briefcase, which then has the guns and I guess fake badges and passports and such.
Yeah, it's like John Wick light. Like, it's like everything that John Wick did that was badass. Like in John Wick, he is smashing up the concrete on his floor to reveal the suitcase with all his guns and money in it. In this movie, it's just hidden behind the drywall in his closet, and he just elbows it and grabs it. Like, it's everything's kind of, we want to make a movie that's like John Wick, but we don't really want to take the time. We just want to capitalize on the whole older guy kicking ass genre. And John Travolta hasn't been in one of those yet, so let's do it.
Well, he never will either.
No.
Because of his so-called acting. It's funny in a year that he's on The People versus O.J. Simpson and getting critical acclaim everywhere for his performance, even if it's not necessarily a great thing, but just how crazy and over the top it is. And yet you get this performance in the exact same year where all of the decisions that he's making don't make any sense. Before he ends up elbowing into the wall and getting his guns, they have a horribly, horribly acted funeral scene that starts with him just kind of draping himself partially over the casket of his dead wife. His daughter comes over to him and says, "Hey, people are showing up," and he goes, I can't do it. I have to go. I can't be here." She's like, "But what's everybody gonna say?" And he just goes, I can't. I'm not. I'm sorry." And a priest comes over to him, has a slight conversation with him, and goes, "Here, this is a Bible. You should take it." And in one of the worst takes ever from somebody who used to be an A-list actor and command a whole bunch of respect, he just goes, "I don't pray."
That's a good impression.
It's with that level of intensity and everything, and you don't understand it. And he makes this weird like frog face kind of afterwards, and just shakes his face for a second. You're like, why did you keep this?
Yeah, I mean, this whole movie is people saying or doing things to John Travolta and him making weird faces. But I think it is a good point that John Travolta is kind of known for his over-the-top performances. Like, he goes too big sometimes. And in this, it's totally reserved. Like, and that has to be a directorial decision. Like, they had to have told him to rein in some of his Travolta-ness. But it makes his character completely bland. But also enjoyable because it falls into the so bad it's good type of camp. Which, I mean, you could maybe argue that's what he was going for. I don't know.
Yeah, there's not a moment of like fun, crazy, swordfish or whatever Travolta in this.
Yeah.
It's like they took the most boring take, and the director was consistently telling him, just say it like you just woke up.
Don't say it like your wife is actually dead. Say it like you don't actually like your wife at all.
Right. Your wife is dying in front of you, and you're just coming off of general anesthesia. And that's what we want in this scene.
We want it to look like you're slowly pushing out a fart.
Which is the thing. Maloney's like the only person who seems aware of what kind of movie he's in, and he's having a blast with it. And he's great.
Yes.
Oh,
I was so happy with that.
Even before we directly jump to Maloney, you can tell that something's off with the directorial style, because he does take that Bible in the next scene and he's seen just casually reading it. You also get a shot of the bedroom that apparently, for whatever reason, has two DVD or VHS/DVD players on their nightstand. Two of them side by side. VHS to DVD players directly underneath the TV. Because I saw it this time and I just thought to myself, what the fuck is going on? Did these people just decide one of these has broken down and we need to go back out to a store and buy another VHS to DVD player?
The set dressing is terrible. It's reflective of the movie as a whole, that no one really cared and they just threw stuff that looked like it belonged. There's a scene like in his daughter's house, which you get to see later. There's scenes when he's talking to his daughter on the phone and she's standing in a room. And I mean, you can tell it looks like a model home room with stuff just thrown places to look like it is an interpretation of the way a person would live. It's terrible. But I mean, they didn't spend any time on it.
Yeah. It looks like the actually the interior living room of I can't remember the character's name, but the girl that the Punisher is protecting in Punisher Warzone. It looks exactly like the same. I was waiting for somebody's face to get. Yeah, I was waiting for somebody's face to get punched into the banister, and I would have been like, I know exactly where this house is. But when he's got the Bible, he's reading it and he throws it angrily across the room, and it just happens to be opened up. And for whatever reason, he goes, "Oh, it seems like he's acting as if to say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, Bible. I didn't mean to throw you across the room. Here, let me console you." Because he picks it up and looks at it, and the camera zooms into the page, takes a certain part, and kind of squares it off and puts a light onto the words so that you can see exactly. So you can see the "I am wrath" passage, and that's what makes him basically go in his mind, well, the Bible told me it's okay to kill motherfuckers, so I probably should.
Which is a hilarious misinterpretation of what that passage of the Bible is actually talking about. Which is funny to me, because this is a movie that has a lot of religious imagery and discussions in it, but it's not interested in really, really examining any of that at all. It's just total surface window dressing.
He totally unironically gets "I am wrath" tattooed on his back, and
by the very person he's looking for.
Yeah, and it's just so corny. To me, the most disappointing set dressing example was Detective Stabler. I don't know his name. His partner's lair, like underneath the actual barbershop that he owns is actually fairly well, like it looks like it could be a real barbershop, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna go down to the basement and it's gonna be this awesome like dungeon, and it's gonna be so cool, and it's just like the generic basement of an industrial building with some targets taped up and like a few guns, like a handful of guns,
and tinfoil apparently is what it looks like.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
Right.
I love that scene though, because I love the moment when they're like they've already got one of the guy's phones at this point, and he's like, "You got anything off that phone yet?" "No, it's gonna take a long time. I got this program from like 1995 or something." So then they go to the shooting range and then they fire off a clip, and they're like, "Phone's done."
And if you find some asshole wants to get up close and personal with you, voila.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Damn.
Self-protection. Latest and greatest in body armor. Check that out. It's like putting silk on your ass.
Any luck with that cell phone?
It's gonna take a little bit of time. I got it running on a program from like 1994, so.
Yeah.
First of all, Scott put way too much energy into that line reading from Christopher Maloney, because Christopher Maloney kind of is turning the phone over back and forth in his hand. And he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna take a few minutes, and then
Was there a
walks
script to
over
this movie?
and just kind of backhands John Travolta's shoulder, and then he goes, "Come on, come on, come on," to take him into the other room where they have this giant shooting range underneath the barbershop. The barbershop that Matt was mentioning is owned by Christopher Maloney's character, who you don't really get a lot of backstory to him, but he and John Travolta's character, Stanley, used to be in Black Ops together. You don't really know what caused the huge rift besides John Travolta's wife, because you have a couple pieces of voiceover where you hear her disembodied voice saying, "Oh, you decided to make a change for me a long time ago," and Christopher Maloney does mention that she was part of the reason that he left it, but he just apparently picked up one day and was like, "Yeah, I've got this chick on the side. I'm leaving." But the strange undertone through all of the Christopher Maloney and John Travolta scenes kind of makes it feel like they used to maybe be lovers, and that Christopher Maloney is the one who was jilted and scorned, and has felt hurt, and that's why he hasn't reached out. But when John Travolta has this horrible thing happen, Christopher Maloney jumps into action to help him out to win back his love. And we're actually
he's got a shot.
Yeah, exactly. None of this is exemplified more than after Christopher Maloney helps John Travolta dispatch of the first of the thugs that were involved in the death of his wife. They have a conversation outside of a I guess it's like a donut shop or fast food type place that kind of sets everything up.
I've always said it takes a certain kind of man to wolf down food after doing this type of work.
Why are you shadowing me? I told you I got this.
Yeah, so far you've just been lucky.
Yeah, well, I got out alive.
And where's your secondary escape route?
Please.
You engaged too long while you were exposed. What if the target had had a better weapon? Or training? Or backup? Look, Stan, you can't afford to screw this up. Abby's already lost one parent.
That's on me. Just me. I asked for intel, that's it. You're not tasked to do this.
I'm gonna tell you something. The second that I saw Vivian on the news, I was tasked to this. Do you think I was surprised when you contacted me? No, I was waiting. You were lucky tonight. Luck will run out on you. I won't.
And it's a perfect example just because of how ridiculous the line is. Just the fact that he actually says in the movie out loud, "Luck will run out on you, but I won't."
That's a man that's in love with another man. You don't say that if you're not in love with someone.
You also don't get to say that and be awesome unless you're Christopher Maloney.
That's true. Oh my god. So what is the plot of this movie? I like.
Well, it like to me, it was like the first 30 seconds. You already know what's going to happen. I mean, not in the details. Like the details are necessarily confusing, and there's too many people who he has to chase down and so forth. But the first thing you know in a scene that is completely out of place is that his wife is working on an EPA report for the governor.
Oh, you mean when the daughter says, "Mom, they're talking about you on the television."
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh no, it's not my plan. I'm just running the numbers for them."
Yeah. and then the camera lingers for like way too long, and you're just like, when is the movie gonna start? and then it actually gets to John Travolta, and then his wife is immediately killed. So you're like, okay, I get it. It's gonna be the governor.
So they were
EPA
talking.
thing,
Who was
that's
the
it.
governor's son? Did I completely miss who his son was? Because they
No,
could-
no. You
He's
you
just
don't.
Druggy kid.
Yeah.
He's just a druggy kid who like caused his girlfriend to be OD'd, and now Tuco Salamanca or whatever has the video of the ODing, and he's going to use it as blackmail.
But it's like the worst blackmail ever because somehow he got a hold of the video of the governor's son and his girlfriend taking this guy's drugs, and ODing and dying, and he has the videotape and he's using it to get the governor to do stuff for him, but the governor's not really doing anything for him because the governor's forcing police officers to do his bidding, which I don't really know about how the hierarchy works in most states, but I don't know of many police officers who are directly doing whatever the governor says just for the fuck of it.
Zero.
Well, he's promising them that they're going to be like police chief. He's just promising any cop that you're going to be police chief.
But
You just got to go murder this guy.
Is he just going into the police station? He's like, hey, I need somebody to do a job for me. Can't
Okay.
really ask a lot of questions.
We got any dirty cops here? Any dirty cops?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, you two guys, the one white guy and the one black guy? Oh, that's perfect.
So,
He does strike me as like the worst corrupt official in
he's
any movie
awful.
ever.
well, so why did the movie feel the need to add this whole blackmailing plot onto what was clearly they killed her because she was investigating the numbers into the pipeline, and why was that necessary? Like, that's a perfectly
Because it was going to hurt his campaign. Basically, is what they were trying to say, is that he had fudged the numbers on that, as well as the effect of crime on the region and his whole platform that he was trying to get reelected for. They made it seem, or maybe he was
but
had higher aspirations.
there's your
but-
plot line.
but-
Why mix in the
Right.
the blackmail and the like, it's ridiculous. Like,
There's no need for it.
they set up
Yeah.
the plot perfectly there, and then they started going down this other line of thinking. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this, like, we don't need the plot in the first place because all we're here is to see these two ridiculous characters kill people a lot. But
Right.
they over convoluted it.
Yeah, they give you 3 levels of boss fights. There's the first one where he actually kills the guy who killed his wife, which, as we've already stated, is the most anticlimactic thing, where he like shoots him while turning away and not paying attention. And then the second guy also sort of gets beaten and up in a very non-fun way. And then the funniest part to me, okay, first of all, I have to talk about this. This was the best. So he breaks into the governor's mansion, which is guarded by, you can only assume, either like private contractors who have families and are probably ex-military, or actual like police. And John Travolta kills all of them. Probably kills like 20 people.
But we don't see most of it.
No, yeah, they cut
Right,
most of it
we-
out for some reason.
We don't see any of this, but he kills like 20 innocent people, basically, because the movie gives you no reason to assume that these are bad guys, other than that they're guarding the governor. And for all we're given to know, they just think they're guarding the governor. They don't think they're, and so he kills all of them. So having demonstrated that he can kill arbitrary numbers of heavily armed and trained adversaries, the governor then gets the drop on him and totally beats him around and shoots him, and like has him could kill him like 3 different times, and only loses because he's standing too close and gets stabbed.
Right. And again, I think that's a John Wick thing, because in John Wick, the final guy he's fighting is an old man that clearly Keanu should have been able to wipe the floor with, but at least in John Wick, they made it seem like he was like beaten up and on the verge of death when he was finally fighting this guy. There's absolutely no indication that John Travolta should not be able to easily take down this guy. You're absolutely right. It's stupid.
It's whatever burger he had earlier in the evening, or whatever he had from the other coffee shop that we see him in 3 times. That's slowing him down, apparently. But my favorite scene is directly before that, when John Travolta is trying to take out the local crime drug lord guy who's got the blackmail video and everything, and has taken his daughter hostage. And Christopher Maloney's there to help him out, and they're able to take out the kingpin guy. And then Dirty Cop number 1 shows up, and John Travolta is standing there, and Sam from True Blood goes, "Oh, well, doesn't look so good for you." Has his friend come in, and John Travolta's like, "What? You didn't think I had backup either?" Christopher Maloney walks in, hits the guy in the head, bends down, grabs his gun, and makes the weirdest face to the camera when picking up the other gun. That I don't know how to explain it. I did create a GIF that we are going to have on the main Daily Planet Films link to this. So go there to see just this like 2-second facial expression of Christopher Maloney. That's astounding. That's all I can say.
Adrian, you say the weirdest face. It's the best face.
Yeah.
This is the best part of the movie. It is so amazing.
I was smiling for that whole scene, and I smiled extra hard when he makes that face.
I fell off the couch. I was laughing so hard. It is so wonderful.
It's so great, but it has no place whatsoever.
No, absolutely not.
In the film. And that exemplifies basically every single moment that Christopher Maloney is in the movie. He is existing in another film altogether. Every choice that he's making is in opposition to everything that's happening in the scene. If everything's deathly serious, then he's going to be comedic. I don't know what to say about it, because it's a truly special performance, and it heightens everything that's in the movie. Things that are in the movie already would be so bad and so confounding that they'd start to be entertaining, but then Christopher Maloney comes in and kicks it basically up to 35 on a level of 1 to 10, just because of the decisions that he's making. Now, when they first dispatch of the first guy that John Travolta is looking for, they kill the guy, throw his body in a dumpster, and set it on fire. The moment before they set the body on fire, the film all of a sudden takes a hard turn and starts to become a buddy cop film. And they have slight weird little banter before they blow this body up.
Right. It's up until that moment, the movie is very dour and like just a standard revenge movie, and then it decides that he is the comic relief. And then, because the script is bad and doesn't really indicate whether a scene is supposed to be comedic or not, I think he just decided that the rest of the movie was going to be comedic. And he played it that way.
I would say that Maloney is making all the right decisions, and everyone else is making all the wrong decisions.
Yes.
Which you'd place that on the director, so that I think that's why you have to give Maloney so much credit, because everyone else is not sure what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. My favorite scene is when John Travolta goes back to church to pray because he's upset, and then the priest shows up and starts praying with him, and he asks the priest if he's getting punished. It's this really tender moment-ish, as good as John Travolta can act. It's not really that emotionally effective, but and the priest is trying to reach out to him, and he's asking him if he's going to go to hell, and the priest gives him this prayer card and tells him the story of the 2 criminals that were crucified with Jesus, and the one who was repentant for their sins. Jesus told him that he was going to go to heaven with him. It's a classic story. It's very simple. It's not complicated. So he tells this whole story to him, and John Travolta's reaction to this is, "I'm sorry, I don't understand." And then the scene's just over. That's it.
Yeah. And like everyone who's ever been to church has heard this story,
Yeah.
this sermon before.
I mean, it's not complicated. It's really simple. If you're a bad
Well,
guy and you're sorry about it, you get to go to heaven. End of story.
Well, the whole thing doesn't make sense. Like why he's there doesn't make sense because he's like, I've killed a lot of people and I feel bad about it. Now I'm gonna go kill a lot more people.
Could you? Yeah, like it's not like the priest talked him out. There's like threads of conflict with this, right? Like he puts his daughter's life in very clear danger twice in the movie.
Right.
But there's
he
really
gets innocent people killed,
and there's really no consequence to that. Like the movie never really punishes him for it at all. Like
No.
if I were his daughter, I'd be like, dude, stop it.
Well,
You got my
but
babysitter shot in the chest.
Well, and directly before that, there's a scene where they go to check on him because they're worried about him, and the daughter and her husband end up leaving the house, getting ready to leave, and the main perpetrator who killed John Travolta's wife is driving by and basically tries to perform a drive-by. Hits the husband in the shoulder. John Travolta shows up literally 30 seconds later and is trying to help him out and says to her, "I promise you, nothing will happen to you or your husband." And the daughter looks at him and goes, "It just did."
And she's right. And then it happens again. And then there's this...
But she's fine 2 seconds later. Like two scenes later, she's totally fine being used as a pawn.
Yeah, she always forgives him immediately for all of his, like the trouble he's caused. That there's no proper conflict there. It's just her being like, "Dad." It's almost like her attitude is like, "Hurry up and kill everyone because you're causing a lot of danger by being slow about this."
Right. Well,
I also enjoyed the drive-by because it was terrible.
Yeah, why would they do a drive-by? Why would they just not like kill them? Like I don't.
They're like, there he is.
There's the
and
car.
Then he shoots. And you see one bullet hit like the rear window of the car. One bullet randomly happens to hit the husband in like the arm or something. And then I think they fire one more bullet. So they fire 3 bullets blindly into a giant SUV, and then they drive off. They're like, "Yeah, we did it."
And then for must be a day later, Charlie realizes that this is the guy who stole his drugs from the tattoo parlor. Like,
no. The reason that he fully finds out about the drugs is because the Kingpin says, "Hey, you're missing some stuff. We have a shipment that's been lost." And the other guy's like, "Nah, that's not true." And he's like, "No, we are." And then 10 minutes later, gets a text from John Travolta saying lost your shipment, which I don't know why they're texting. He's got the guy's number. The guy doesn't know his phone number or anything. He could easily just call and have a conversation. But it seems like they wanted to have the little flare of the text bubbles.
Yeah, they wanted to use the pop-up text bubbles.
And that leads to the aforementioned nightclub scene that's in a Korean club. So you can have this really weird tension moment where there's a Korean guy sitting on a couch adjacent to the main perpetrator, Charlie, who has a fly on the side of his face, who's waiting for John Travolta and the drugs and keeps on staring at this guy who has a duffel bag, which you never find out why he has a duffel bag or what's inside the duffel bag. And they start the gunfight essentially inside the club before John Travolta's even there, because the guy's just kind of staring at him and they're staring at each other like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why are you staring at me?" And the Korean guys just happen to pull out guns. Like this nightclub this takes place in Ohio. I think it's Columbus.
It's in that's what I wanted to bring up. Why they set this in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. A Korean club where apparently every single drug deal in town takes place on the same night.
The mean streets of Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, no, that whole scene is stupid because it's played off as it's supposed to be tense, but one of the characters is the bad guy, and another person is someone we never met before. So we don't, like, I was gonna be like, are they just gonna have these people shoot each other, and John Travolta be like, "Ha, I won."
Yeah.
I want to say
And
that the director or the screenwriter had a couple things on a list of places they either wanted to shoot or elements that they wanted to put in there. The Korean nightclub being one. That church that has the Black Jesus that's featured like 4 or 5 different times for no real reason, and then just random alleyways.
Well, here's my theory on why this took place in Columbus, Ohio. The city of Columbus and possibly the state gave the production company a tax break if they filmed there, and the movie was too lazy to dress it up to look like another city, so they just decided to call it Columbus, Ohio. That's my theory, because I think that fits with everything else in this movie.
yeah, I mean that sounds plausible. Can we? I guess we already kind of talked about the intro sequence with the news reports, but it was funny to me how you really think the movie is going to be thematically about like rising violence and crime and some kind of systemic problem, and there's going to be some kind of systemic solution. And I guess you could argue that there kind of is, because they killed a corrupt governor, but
No, that's not
it's
really
like-
what the movie's about at all.
You had way too high hopes for this film.
yeah. Well. I mean, they're literally having the newscaster be like, rising crime rates across the state is the point of this movie, and then it never mentions that again, and other than like, oh, there's a lot of crime, but in like you just expect that in any kind of movie like this. So
Well, this is the type of movie that decides to have a scene in which someone is handcuffed to the steering wheel of a car. They wake up from being knocked out, see that the side little gas latch to the gas tank of the car has a book of matches that have been lit and are slowly burning down. And the African American, the black police officer whose name escapes me because I think they mentioned it once,
Yeah,
if
I
even
have
that
no
in the
idea
film.
what it is. Detective
he-
something.
He's in the back, in the trunk of the car. He kicks out and jumps out of the trunk as the car explodes, and appears that he just evaporates into thin air. But then 2 scenes later, after the governor's been killed and John Travolta's been arrested, appears at the hospital dressed as another police officer and has a very small burn mark on the side of his face.
Yeah, the side of his face that was the only part of his face facing away from the explosion that he just jumped out of. But that's how
Exactly.
explosions work. This, this movie, like, I loved it, first of all. I don't want to get away from that. But it's kind of interesting to inspect it and realize the places where people made fairly easy to make movie mistakes. Like, there's the bulletproof vest that we're set up with that John Travolta is given by Christopher Maloney. And then there's a payoff to the bulletproof vest at the end of the movie when he walks out onto the lawn and allows himself to be shot by all these police officers for some reason. We learn he survives this, but they never really say or show that he was wearing the bulletproof vest. So it's like a setup and a payoff, but it's not paid off correctly because like you have to manually tie that back together. The movie doesn't really tie it back for you.
Well, they do show him them cutting it off him before they put him in the
I guess.
the ambulance. Well, because they show it, and all I was thinking when they showed that is, okay, they shot him everywhere but the head, and the head is a pretty easy place to kill somebody.
But why did he do that?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. He walked out
makes-
ready to die, but
it makes no sense emotionally. That's right. Like if the vest had saved him because 1,000 bad guys had shot at him, then it would be like, oh, that's great. He lived because his buddy gave him the vest, and this was set up. But he's like trying to do suicide by cop, trying to kill himself, and fails because of the vest. You're like, I'm not sure what exactly you want me to feel here. The other funny part about that was 2 seconds after he's shot, like probably less than 5 seconds, he's swarmed by paramedics who start cutting his clothes off and fixing him. I'm pretty sure after the North Hollywood shootout, like they just let those bodies kind of sit there on the sidewalk for a while. Like I don't think the paramedics are the first ones to rush to save a gunman who just killed the governor. I think it's just kind of like, hey, let's see to all the cops that he shot.
That's because you don't understand the inner workings of the police and medical forces of Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right. I guess it's important to have the suspect be taken alive so that they can give him a fair trial.
No. Well, so they can under the auspice of getting a fair trial, because we jump straight to the hospital where his lawyer shows up and says that because of his past dealings in Black Ops, that this has become a matter of national security, and he's going to be taken to a site and detained and put on trial without a jury or anything. And that's when we have I have no idea if that's true or not. The movie believes it's true.
Thing. I don't think if you were in Black Ops once in your life, you now are no longer allowed to have a trial by jury. But it doesn't matter because he's guilty, and he should probably go to prison.
But he's not going to, because the black officer who survived goes in to try to kill Stanley. He has a gun that's been handed to him by his daughter 2 seconds earlier.
Somehow.
And just apparently, because again, she's forgiven him for everything that's happened. And the officer shot in the head before he can kill Stanley by Christopher Maloney, who has infiltrated the hospital dressed as a doctor and is there to break John Travolta out and get him to a country that has a no extradition treaty.
Hooray! Our hero has escaped.
Yeah, I'm genuinely unsure whether John Travolta fired first or whether Christopher Maloney did.
I have no idea.
The way their dialogue plays out is not clear. But anyway.
But it's supposed to be funny and lively. And then as the movie ends, John Travolta is being wheeled down a long corridor in the hospital while they have, I guess, semi-funny banter that you can barely hear. And whenever I see the end scene, and it's seared into my brain, because it feels like all of a sudden you should have very garish blue 80s block letter credits come up on the screen that says produced by Donald P. Belisario, because it feels like it's the end of a bad Quantum Leap or Jag episode, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
And
where they're running off down the hall, and then one of them like jumps, and then and then it freezes. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Scott, I need you to find the end credit music to either
Quantum Leap, please.
Yeah, Quantum Leap or MacGyver, one of them, because that's how we have to end this episode. That's how the movie makes you feel. And it's beautiful and terrible at the same time.
It's really fortunate he was wearing his disguise hoodie, so no one noticed him. Every time in the movie he needs to be incognito, he wears this really obvious hoodie.
Yeah. Creepy looking hoodie.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh, so before I forget to mention this, like the most standout aspect of the movie that makes it obvious that this is a comedy is that every time anything happens, Christopher Maloney is like, all right, we got 3 minutes.
Yes, I love that. It doesn't. Anytime there's a gun that's fired, someone's killed, someone's put in a bad situation, you just look 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah. Right. 3 minutes till what? 3 minutes till the cops show up. 3 minutes till the other bad guys come. 3 minutes till security comes because we're running out of the hospital. It's always 3 minutes, and it's always the same like tone. And the movie never draws attention to like you would think that would be the setup that he would say it a bunch of times, and then John Travolta at some point would be like, "You always say it's 3 minutes," and then it would be at least mildly funny. But it's not. He says it probably 5 times in the movie.
Yeah, like it's a perfect opportunity for a good 3-beat, but they don't know what they're doing, so they don't actually execute on that. I want to change my favorite scene again. My favorite scene is when John Travolta is thinking back about all the memories with his wife, and it's only the scenes in the film that they've been in together because they didn't feel like actually shooting. No, there's one scene where they're jumping up and down in the kitchen
for no reason. We've never seen it, and oh my god, it's so
I like it when he's putting together the mystery, and instead of just showing like him looking at the documents, they show him looking at the documents while piping in the audio of the things that his wife said earlier in the movie, even though you the viewer understood this an hour ago,
like when it was first played.
Right. And it's things that he wasn't even there to be aware happened. Like he's hearing, because at first it seems like they're showing it to remind the audience, oh, hey, this happened from the first part. But then the second and third things they show him remembering clearly make it seem as if it's going on in his head. So somehow he magically knew about where his wife was and what she said or heard early in the day. He's Batman. That's what it is. He's Batman. He's the world's greatest detective.
What this movie really needed was just a scene where the entire family is together, to at least build some sort of emotion towards this family unit, because it doesn't happen, and we're supposed to believe he's really close with his daughter, but you never really see that. Like, the one scene we get with them at the beginning of the movie is him saying, "I can't be here for the funeral. Goodbye." And you never buy any of it. Like, start the movie where that stupid scene where she says, "Oh, Mom, you're on the news." Have him be there and have her taking him to the airport instead of away from it or something.
Right.
That fixes a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, Scott, and that's very good to talk about from like a story crafting perspective, because a lot of bad movies make the mistake where they don't understand the importance of creating emotional stakes, and it would have been really easy to create emotional stakes here by having there be something at risk with respect to his daughter, like she wants him to not do this, or if she finds out he's doing this, then it'll be really terrible, and the movie makes that really clear, or she becomes physically at risk in a way that we actually believe. But in order for that to happen, we actually have to care about her, which we don't, so it doesn't matter.
Well, look at, and I know I've been doing this a lot, but look at John Wick. Like, look at how long the movie spends just with Keanu and the puppy.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, it's they could have even used shorthand there because it's a puppy and people freak out when you kill a dog. But the movie still spends so much time, like, establishing how much he cares about this dog. I mean, it's a symbol for he and his dead wife's relationship, but you do something like that and you endear your audience to the character, and the stakes are now like you want him to win because you feel personally hurt as well. And this movie doesn't have that.
Yeah. Well, couldn't we say that Christopher Maloney is this movie's puppy, but he survives?
Yeah, I guess we could.
Yeah, because that's the only relationship you care about in the movie. And in fact, at one point, I was like, "Oh, are they going to take this the direction where the reason Christopher Maloney has like gotten in contact with him and is helping him is because Christopher Maloney is also in the governor's pocket, and Christopher Maloney likes him, so he's trying to gently dissuade him from this course of action by tagging along with him and saying things like, 'Don't you think this is far enough?' to try to make sure he doesn't like actually solve the mystery." And I was thinking like, oh, that would be a pretty cool twist, and it would be neat because like you genuinely like him and you would actually care about the betrayal, but I didn't do that.
Yeah, that'd be too hard of writing to do.
Yeah.
No, but that's, I mean, or to go along with the Christopher Maloney as puppy dog, put him in danger, because he's never really in danger in the movie. If he's the only character we care about, like get hit. So like he brought Christopher Maloney into this, make it so he put him in danger too. And that's really one of the things that affects him the most. It's not just his daughter being put in danger, but that he put his old friend / lover in danger.
Hey, his shin was in danger when he took on those three guys and took the bat to him.
When he broke the short end of a baseball bat on his shin,
Yeah.
holy crap, that would hurt.
He also gets shot, and it somehow doesn't matter. I guess it was in the
What-
body armor.
Well, when he gets shot, it's when he's outside of John Travolta's daughter's house, where the main drug lord kingpin guy is, and it made my wife and I laugh hysterically last night because he's there with the sniper rifle. He gets shot in the arm from the side that somehow causes him to fly backwards and fall down a flight of stairs, but is totally fine like 30 seconds later when he kills the guy and then goes inside the house.
I really thought
Yeah.
they were going to kill him off at that moment. And I think the movie
Right.
would have been better for it if they had. As much as I love him in this movie and wish he was the star.
Right. I mean, it would have at least had an emotional tone if like his daughter had been like, "I hate you. You just got my friend killed," and his partner had been killed in that scene. Then he would have been like legitimately sort of cut loose with nothing to lose, and then it could have actually been a movie that ended with him dying, and it would have been a very, very different tone. I'm not saying I would have liked that more or that it would have been better. But it sort of felt like it maybe should have. I don't know.
Well,
not gonna come down too
Stanley
hard
has
on
no arc in this movie. And it seems like a ridiculous thing to talk about in a movie this terrible and not interested in actually telling a story at all. But he doesn't. He learns nothing. Like, the movie says basically that you should embrace violence when you feel like the justice system isn't working for you because it's all corrupt, and it's totally on his side on vigilante justice and becoming wrath incarnate. And apparently it's saying that God is all for that too.
But he's only for it if you happen to be a former Black Ops or whatever that's then become a car plant manager. That's the only case. You have to take those steps, Scott, before you can become a vigilante. Otherwise, God's going to frown upon that apparently. So that's not cool.
Shit. Well, there goes my whole plan.
Does anybody have any final thoughts before we get into the voting stage?
I just want to say that the moment when the mayor asks him who he is, and he responds with "I am Wrath," is probably the greatest moment in the history of cinema. Because he says it just as flat as he said everything else in the movie, and he's just like, "I am Wrath."
I am Wrath. Does the governor or mayor, is he the mayor or the governor? I don't care.
He's the governor.
Mayor, isn't he?
He's the governor,
Okay.
which he should be the mayor.
Okay. He should be the mayor.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Does he still not understand who John Travolta is at that point?
He might
No,
not.
he-
After everything that's
knows.
happened?
He knows because directly before it, when he comes in, he says, "Stanley Hill, Black Ops turned car guy."
Right. And then he's like, "Who are you?" And it's like, What do you mean, who are you?
It's Stanley.
What?
He was in Black Ops. You know he's in Black Ops.
Are you having a stroke? Are you okay?
I'm the same guy.
Still me.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's great. It's my favorite is the guy that decides that he's going to kill him, waits till after he finishes the final touches on his tattoo before he decides that, now it's time to kill you.
The final
Honest.
touches that take all of like 25 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, that tattoo would take hours. A
Well,
full
the
back
first guy's
tattoo.
the first guy's been working on it for like most of the night. Then the other guy shows up and he's like, "Okay, you need to stay still. This guy's gonna finish you
I mean,
off."
he's the one you wanted anyway.
He spends like all of 30 seconds, asks him like 2 questions, and then is like, "Okay, you're good. There we go."
Let me just finish up this H.
It's like calling in another boxer to come in the last 30 seconds of round 10 just to punch somebody in the jaw once so that they get a TKO. It's not the best system to have in place, but that exemplifies the movie.
Yeah, it also looks nothing like a fresh tattoo because fresh tattoos are red and irritated and so forth.
Yeah.
This is a minor nitpick. So
Well,
Again, Matt, that's because you haven't gotten a tattoo in Columbus, Ohio. So
You're
and
right.
it would have been cool to have the tattoo be a payoff later in the movie than just immediately pay off. Like, there's no reason they have to show it there in that moment. Like, I think it would have been better if it's at the end when he comes to the realization, or at least he reads the line like he's coming to the realization that he is Wrath incarnate, to then reveal the tattoo. But
Yeah.
no, we're just gonna throw it right in the middle of the movie and never talk about it again.
Yeah.
all right, okay. So we're clearly at the voting point. I think we all know how this is going to go, but just for formalities, we have to
Do
do
we?
it. Yeah, we have to. Hey, I know that we're taking liberties with everything and the structure and what we're doing, but this is the one tenet that we do have to do.
No. I mean, do we know how this is going?
Well, I hope so.
I don't know.
And
Well,
now
let's
I'm-
let's
now-
find
now-
out.
Let's find out.
If this doesn't go the correct way, then I have to pray to Black Jesus to take mercy on me when I kill you guys. So
Okay, we'll see.
okay, Scott, let's start with you. What is your vote? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. I like the whole point of the Phantom Zone to me was a movie that was so bad that I would never want anyone to have to sit down and watch it. I would never want anyone to endure the pain of watching the movie. I want everyone to watch this movie. It's not good. It's not good at all, but it's fun and it's funny. It's more funny than Loose Cannons, which was supposed to be a comedy. It's great. It's campy. It's definitely so bad it's good. It's a good movie.
All right, Matt, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty, because this movie, I can totally imagine it coming on TV at any point in my life, whether I was like an adolescent or now, and watching it with whatever family or group of college friends or spouse, and pretty much enjoying just the silliness of it equally, and laughing and forgetting about it the next day in all likelihood. But not all movies have to be Kubrick.
This movie definitely is not Kubrick, but
That's
there
pretty safe to
are
say.
plenty of scenes that have endeared themselves to me and seared themselves onto my brain. This is a movie that I've been talking about since I first saw it in March, because Birth Movies Death had been covering the horrible posters and everything, but I didn't see a trailer or anything. And I happened to glimpse when it was coming out, and I had some credit on Vudu and decided, you know what, I want to give this a try. This looks absolutely horrible. John Travolta looks like he's slumming it more than he ever has. I didn't even know that Christopher Maloney was in it at that point. And I watched it, and within the first 10 minutes just thought, holy shit, this is something special for all the horrible and brilliant reasons that movies exist. And because of that, I also have to vote not guilty, because I want this movie to be seen by everybody. I've been trying to get as many people as I could to rent it. To anyone who's a listener out there and happens to be a T-Mobile subscriber, T-Mobile Tuesdays for the last like 2 months has been giving people $5.50 towards renting or buying any movie every week. This movie to rent is $6.99. So if you're a T-Mobile customer, it's only $1.50 to watch this movie, and all three of us will agree that's at least worth $1.50.
Absolutely. I have a question though. If Christopher Maloney wasn't in it, would this still have been as enjoyable of an experience? Would you give it a not guilty?
I don't think so. I think I'd probably give it a guilty. I think it still would have moments that we can enjoy and discuss because of how bad the writing and directing is, but it takes it to a special upper echelon when you have Christopher Maloney involved in the proceedings.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it would have been pretty boring without him. I mean, honestly, I think he actually gets the only genuinely cool action sequence in the movie when he takes out the three guys in the barbershop. That's the only bit of believable like action in the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Because he like actually takes the time to learn choreography and like works out and stuff.
Yes.
Unlike John
Right.
Travolta.
Well, we saved the movie. That's all that matters.
It
We
is.
we have it to hold on to watch whenever we want, to pass it on to future generations and this generation and old people who have nothing to do at home to enjoy this film.
yeah,
So I'm
I
glad
was
that we got to
just
do this.
worried that you thought we were going to condemn the movie.
Yeah.
No,
that's,
no, no. For a while I was, and then it got closer, and had a message from Scott yesterday that just said this movie is amazing, and I'm like, oh, that's good. That's two out of three. That's all I need. I've got Meatloaf on my shoulder telling me that 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
When we come back next month, we're finally going to get to a movie that I've been thinking about for a while, even though this is only the 3rd episode, and doing Heartbeats. I want to sit down and I want to force us to watch that Andy Kaufman, Bernadette Peters as robots malfunctioning in love, because I think that's a movie that we deserve to get back on track after this.
hooray.
All right, Scott, where can we find you?
I am on Twitter at ScottDaily85. I also will be covering Fantastic Fest for the Daily Planet, which is dailyplanetfilms.com. Like Adrian said at the top of the podcast, I will be down there starting tomorrow, and Adrian will be joining me Saturday. And then James,
I'll be in town on Saturday,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get tickets for any shows that are going on then.
and then James Gentry will be coming, I think, Tuesday for a few days. He got the second half tickets, but can't come for the full week because he can't take off that many days for work. But he will be there, so we will all three be down there, and we're gonna try to record a podcast and probably write some articles about some movies we saw. Talk about some of the other stuff that goes on at the festival. They've got that escape room that I really, really want to do. I'm so excited.
Most of the times they're already starting to fill up on that one, unfortunately.
I know.
So we got to find a day. We gotta find a day. Matt, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at MoreDinamail and sometimes write for dailyplanetfilms.com.
All right. I can be found at Yo Adrian Torres on Twitter, and I'm going to be doing my darndest to get some writing out for Fantastic Fest with these wonderful people. I know that I'll probably start writing stuff when I'm there, but probably won't put it out for like a week or so after that, since none of us are going to be sleeping and most of us are going to be drunk during the proceedings.
I have a friend I'm staying with while I'm down there, and he like was asking me there's a football game on Saturday he wants me to go to with him, and I'm like I don't know if that's gonna happen. He goes, I know there's something going on at midnight on Saturday I definitely want to go to. And he's like, there's something that starts at midnight? I was like, yeah, there's something that starts at midnight every night. He did not realize this when he told me I could stay with him. Like, I'll be quiet when I come home.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But with that, we're gonna cue the music.